What is up, guys? It's Alex Johnson here, the founder and lead analyst at yardsperfantasy.com. Welcome into the second episode of the Feed Me Fantasy podcast. Let's eat. Before we get started, I just want to thank you all for tuning into that first episode. The amount of listens it got greatly exceeded my expectations. A few of you even left some kind words in the ratings and on Twitter. So, thank you for the support. It means a lot to me. And welcome back. I know I've talked a lot about my work at my site yardsperfantasy.com over these first couple of shows. You should check it out. But I do want to mention that you can also find some of my work at playerprofiler.com. I covered 11 players in this year's world-famous, in quotes, draft kit, and recently put up an article about Terry McLaurin, which you should check out as well. And actually, I'll probably turn it into a podcast episode later this summer. But today's about Nick Chubb. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Nick Chubb, the talent. I was higher than consensus on him in Dynasty rookie drafts coming out of Georgia in 2018. When others were drafting Ronald Jones, Rashad Penny, and Sony Michel ahead of him, yuck, I was routinely snatching him up as my RB3 behind Barkley and Geis. But I'm a little soft on him in 2020 considering the cost. He's currently going as the RB8 according to Fantasy Pros ADP data. I have him ranked well outside the top 10 as the RB14. You can find my full rankings at yardsperfantasy.com/expert-rankings. The enemy to Chubb's fantasy production comes in the form of Kareem Hunt. Remember, Hunt was suspended the first 8 games of 2019. In those 8 weeks, Chubb was the leading fantasy scorer in the Browns' backfield, to no surprise. However, when Hunt came back, he actually led Cleveland running backs in fantasy points in 6 of 8 weeks. Chubb got weeks 12 and 15, but that was it. If that's not setting off alarm bells, I don't know what will. But I have more. Chubb without Hunt averaged 19.7 fantasy points per game and was the RB5. With Hunt, Chubb averaged 13 fantasy points per game and was the RB23. Basically, Kareem Hunt's return from suspension was a kick in the face to Chubb's fantasy value. Too soon? Anyway, using the final 8 weeks with Hunt in the mix, Chubb's points per game projected out for a full 16-game season would have finished as the RB18. That's not terrible. It's just not an RB1 like he's being drafted as. Like I mentioned, Chubb is currently going as the RB8 according to Fantasy Pros ADP data. That's ahead of guys like Austin Eckler, Kenyon Drake, Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, and Leonard Fournette. The good news is Browns' new head coach Kevin Stefanski ranked number 4 in the league in run rate as the Vikings offensive coordinator in 2019, as he opted for the ground attack on 48.3% of his play calls. And when he's handed the ball, Chubb does great things. He had 17 breakaway runs of 15 yards or more in 2019, the best among all running backs. He was also great at making defenders miss, accumulating 96 evaded tackles, resulting in a 28.7% juke rate, which was second and 10th best among running backs respectively. So why was he so outproduced when Hunt returned? That's because Hunt is the pass catcher, and it's been proven that targets and receptions are far more valuable in fantasy than carries. Chubb only had 36 receptions in 2019, ranking 24th among tailbacks. And that was with those first 8 games where he had the backfield to himself and averaged 4.5 targets per game. But after Hunt came back, Chubb saw barely 2 targets per game, while Hunt was averaging nearly 6. That's a target share of 12% pre-Hunt and 5% with him. Yikes. And this has been a concern going back to his college days, with a mere 6.5% 38th percentile target share at Georgia, where he again ceded passing downs role to Sony Michel, who, by the way, doesn't catch passes in the NFL. What does that tell you? Over those last 8 games, Chubb had 336 snaps to Hunt's 313. Hunt only saw 23 fewer snaps. Now, he only had 43 carries to Chubb's 143, but again, those targets and receptions are so valuable. We just can't count on Chubb getting elite running back touches, so why are we drafting him like he will? But that's going to be a wrap for today, though. And if you're not already, please follow me on Twitter at @A_JohnsonFF and the site at YardsPer. Please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Also, please be sure to rate and review. It really helps me out a lot and is much appreciated. Thanks, guys. Cue that music.